artificial intelligence or AI and eventually artificial general intelligence or AGI could become so intrinsic to the command, control, and communication aspects of nuclear weapons that they could pose profound existential threat to the human race. Sundeep Waslekar, a leading expert on global strategic affairs, president of the Mumbai-based Strategic Foresight Group and author of A World Without War, has been tracking the dangers posed by AI and AGI in the realm of nuclear weapons. In her recent article, Sundeep wrote, and I quote, "Currently, the response time available for human operations is 10 to 15 minutes. By 2030, it will be reduced between 5 and 7 minutes. Even though human decision makers will make the final call, they will be swayed by the AI's predictive analytics and prescriptions. AI may be the driving force behind launch decisions as early as the 2030s. We are barely 5 years from that. It's no longer a specter on the horizon. It is here." Unquote. Sandeep spoke to MCR from Mumbai. Welcome to my entire report, Sandeep. It's always a great pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure, Mike.
Are we already entering the era of the lethal combination of algorithms and plutonium, as you write?
We have entered that era already. The five big powers who have nuclear weapons, United States, Russia, China, UK, and France, they do not use artificial intelligence or algorithms in the launch functions of the weapons. And therefore, they say that there is human in the loop. But that's very misleading. Actually, artificial intelligence is very much used in the decision support functions. So you have early warning system in every nuclear command, control, and communications, what we call NC3. And in this early warning system, you have cyber technology combined with artificial intelligence, which collates data from all kinds of sources, from sensors, satellite images, other sources, and it advises the launch function on incoming threats. So if the decision support system says that there are missiles coming in from the enemy, uh, the launch function has to respond. So even though the launch function is in the human hands, but it is being guided by the AI and cyber technology combination, which is in the decision support. So these big powers, they claim that there is a human in the loop, but that's very nominal because he's only in the launch function, but he's totally guided by what is being told by the decision support system, which is really artificial intelligence. Now, currently, what you have is that on an average, there is a time period of 15 to 20 minutes when a warning is given, and the launch function has to take a decision. And in this 15-20 minutes, they can call up the adversary, they can cross check, they can see other sources. And so there is some hope that they may be able to verify the threat. Even though 15-20 minutes is not long, but there it may be possible. But in 5 years from now or 7 years from now, two things will happen. One is that the AI will be able to give you a more precise analysis of what it is watching. So in that sense, the risk will be reduced. But on the other hand, the warning period will reduce because the missiles will become much faster. So if you have 15 to 20 minutes now, you will have about 4 to 5 minutes to take a decision in 5 to 10 years from now. So imagine the guy who has to decide whether the incoming threat is real or not. If he thinks it's real and he presses the button, or he asks his superiors to press the button, and you start you launch an attack on the adversary, and if the threat was actually not real, then you are starting a nuclear war for no reason. On the other hand, you think that the threat is not real, but if it is actually real and there are missiles coming in, then you are being destroyed. You are allowing yourself to be destroyed. And imagine taking this decision in a matter of 3 to 4 minutes. The launch functionary is so much under pressure. Plus, he needs a minute to go up the chain of command and inform the head of state who presses the button. So we are really living in a very precarious time. Now, this is going to be made worse by three factors. One is that the AI that is evolving in the next few years will be able to go through the cyber system. It will not be stopped by the cyber defenses, which is the case now in the early warning system. So it will be able to go and it will be able to manipulate the early warning system. So you might get images which you don't even know whether they are true or false, because it will be AI going into the cyber defense. The second thing that would happen is that you will have the hypersonic missiles, which are currently automated but not uploaded with the AI. There is a race going on between the three big powers to upload or embed AI in the hypersonic missiles. When that happens, then the AI will detect the target and almost automatically launch the attack. So then you are passing on the decision to attack from humans in the control tower to the AI itself. And the third, which is the most dangerous, that AI is evolving at a very fast rate. And next 3 4 years, we may reach a level of an extremely smart AI, maybe something which is able to surpass the human cognition. And in which case, you would have a situation where uh, 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 AI will be able to take over even the launch function, or it will be able to manipulate the launch function. And we simply don't know how the AI is evolving. So the evolution of AI in the direction of artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is going to be the biggest threatening factor if we see 5 to 10 years from now.
I mean, what you have laid out should scare the heck out of any reasonable, responsible leader. You mentioned informal consensus existing between the big five. Now, that's not reassuring for the simple reason that only one leader can append that in a second. Like you're witnessing in the trade wars that are on right now. One person can completely undo what's in place. So, what is the guarantee that with the advent of AGI, which is almost here now, are we going to be in any control of the nuclear arsenal at all in the next 5 years?
No, Mayank, that is the whole problem. The informal consensus is about not using AI in the launch functions.
Right,
But as I said, the launch function is only a small part of the entire NC3 system.
right.
So their consensus is only with regards to the launch function, but it's really not all that important. I mean, you have the decision support system, you have early warning, you have hypersonic missiles, you have the advent of AGI, all those other things, and there is no either formal or informal consensus. In
Right.
fact, some leaders, some systems live in denial. They think that there is not going to be any AGI, there is not going to be any risk of AI triggering a nuclear war. But that's against the scientific evidence. So there is nothing to be assured of by the informal consensus, because it's limited to a very, very small component of the entire NC3 system, which looks like dramatically important, but really dependent on all other components. Secondly, even if there were a consensus, even if a comprehensive consensus, not just in the launch function, as you said, I mean, any of the five leaders could just go in his own direction, and may not really care for the consensus that exists. There is some hope if you have a very comprehensive pact between these five countries, which is legal and which is binding. And of course, they may even disregard a binding pact. That's possible, but but a binding pact is lot more reliable than an informal consensus in a launch function. But that binding pact has to be covering many aspects, and it should cover the penetration of AI in the cyber defense. It should cover the hypersonic missiles, at least with regards to their embeddedment with AI. But most important, it should uh, it, it should cover the provision that AI beyond human control or beyond human cognition will not be used anywhere near nuclear weapons. That's the most important. But you cannot really separate the technology from its use. Once
Right.
the technology is there, you use it. So this takes you to the next question, and that is about controlling the AI itself.
That's
Not
such a
just
broad. That's so much broader. In fact, I've done
yeah,
several
yeah, not just in the
pieces on
context
it.
of nuclear weapon, but generally controlling the AI arms race, and
Yeah.
that's where we go yeah, eventually.
You're talking about the five big powers. I mean, we are not even addressing the obvious ones, the three others, at least the three others: India, Pakistan, and Israel. Perhaps
And North Korea,
North
which is
Korea, and perhaps even Iran at some point. So,
but not today, not today.
not to them. I'm
You
just
already
laying
have
out
four
a
others.
scenario.
You have India, Pakistan, North Korea, and Israel already.
Yeah. So, I mean, they are not even part of the big five, which is absurd.
Yeah. No, the tendency is that if the big five reach a consensus, a formal agreement,
Yeah.
India and Pakistan will follow. Definitely.
But that's
100%.
arrogant, right? In an existential crisis, say unfolding in the South Asian region, who's going to wait for the big five to give their blessings?
No, no. I mean, if there is a pact, then India and Pakistan will co-sign that pact. But you have a problem with Israel and North Korea. I mean,
Right,
India and Pakistan will observe at least some restraint,
right,
and also in case of uh, uh, Russia, you have a system where uh, the Russian president can more or less launch an attack. In case of US, is the president who presses the button. But both in India and Pakistan, there is a small decision-making circle which
right,
comes into picture before the head of government presses the button. So there is a small what you can say air gapping there.
right.
But we simply don't know what's the situation with North Korea. We don't know. It's behind iron curtain, and we don't know what is their decision making process. There is
So,
a lot of speculation that the academics have done,
right,
and Israel is also difficult because Israel even denies the existence of nuclear weapons in its territory. So,
precisely.
so Israel and North Korea are the biggest problems because of their uncertainty and the unpredictability.
Right. Uh, I mean, I would like you to talk about the fundamental problem here of AI being prone to errors, as you have written about it
Right,
as well, where it might detect a missile attack where none exists, and the vice versa. Uh,
right.
who's paying attention to these details?
See, first of all, AI everywhere it's is prone to error, even in your very normal, very mundane
Right,
functions. So if you take the London Police, London Metropolitan Police, what's called the Met, they use AI uh, for crime prediction, and and they have a very significant error rate there. It varies from period to period. It varies from uh, uh, borrow to borrow. uh, uh, it sometimes goes up to 30% in certain periods in certain sections. But imagine, like, you are nabbing and following as Met Police 100 people as potential criminals, and 30% is the error rate. So 30 of them are completely fine individuals who are being harassed and chased by the police for nothing.
right.
So it's very difficult to pinpoint the exact figure for error rate uh, in the civilian uses, like crime prediction. There is also in cancer research, or in early detection of the breast cancer.
Right.
There is also in facial recognition. In China, they use AI for, but everywhere there are errors. What I surmised is that that error rate, by and large, wherever I've seen, is minimum 10% in each of these cases.
Which is
It's not
huge.
an average
Which
of
is huge.
10%. Yeah, but it's quite huge. Like, if you have a breast cancer, and if 100 women are being, their breast cancer is being detected, and if the error rate is, I don't know what's the exact error rate in breast cancer. Again, it will vary from a country to country. But even if you take a minimum error rate of 10%, it's quite huge. That means 10% of the patients are not detected, or 10% of innocent women or some part of that 10% are being made to suffer. And it's the same with facial recognition. I mean, facial recognition, you are identifying some people. Now imagine you go facial recognition. Some people may get tortured. Crime prediction. Some people may get tortured. Breast cancer detection. Some people may get mentally tortured. But imagine an error with a missile launch,
Right.
and you have a missile launch because there is some kind of an error in the threat detection or in the target detection later on. So you launch a missile because there is a small error, and even if that error rate is less than 1%, it's still huge if you are going to start a nuclear war because of 1% error rate. So 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 AI as a technology is not a perfect technology. In every application of AI, you would find that there are errors, and these rates vary from situation to situation and function to function. But it's not a completely flawless technology. So
Right.
deploying that technology, even if you take maximum care in the weaponry, you are taking a huge risk because you are talking about killing of millions and millions of people. And in the case of a nuclear war, you are perhaps talking about killing all 7, 8 billion people on the earth sooner or later with the radiation and with all other effects. So it's extremely dangerous, and we need to give serious attention to the controlling of AI in its extreme risk of all kinds.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I don't think the world is ready to give that attention.
I want your perspective on in the specific context of India. India being a nuclear power, and do you think India has anyone thinking about AI, the threat that AI poses, or are we at all even using AI in any way at all?
See, we in India have just started using AI in agriculture, health, education. What you might say AI for social good. That's the level. And India's aspiration is to use AI for social good, and that's also, I would say, with some differentiation, the aspiration of what you call most countries in the global south. If India is using AI in the military, I would not know, because that would be in a secret domain. I would be surprised if they are not using. I think, I mean, with the technology there, obviously it's natural that they use, but where they are using, how they are using, I wouldn't really know, and what is the risk of error there. But uh, but generally in India and South Africa, Brazil, all the global South countries, there is a tendency not to take into account the catastrophic risk posed by AI,
Yeah.
either because of the AI going out of human control or crossing the human cognition, or because AI being uh, either misused deliberately or accidentally in dangerous circumstances, in the production of biological weapons, in the production of in the not production, but in the informing the decisions in nuclear weapons. And many other dangerous chemical weapons, many other dangerous uses. So
Right.
there is a tendency not to talk about the risk posed by AI, and only talk about the benefits offered by AI.
Exactly.
Now, benefits are there, of course, and we must harness the technology. No denying of that. But the risk and benefits are not two alternative dimensions of governance. Good governance of AI must mitigate risk and maximize benefits. But somehow in India and in other global South countries, the tendency is only talk about the benefits, try to maximize them, try to maximize the access to technology, try to protect your data with various data sovereignty measures, but completely deny risk, don't even talk about them.
Right.
Now, this is self-defeating, because the countries that are talking about the risk uh, are also the countries that are, in fact, causing the risk, because India and Malaysia and Indonesia and South Africa are not posing any kind of existential risk. I mean, their AI is really the AI which can be utilitarian AI, which can be used for the agriculture and those kinds of goods. But the countries that are really posing the risk like US, UK, China, I would say, and Russia. Though Russia is lot in the era of darkness, and we don't know what's happening behind the curtain. But these countries, they are talking about the risk, and they are discussing how to mitigate the risk.
Right.
So, so if the global south countries just deny the risk and don't even talk about them, then they will be left out of the governance of risk. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, so that is the risk, but this is self-defeating, but they don't understand it.
Yep.
And they just want to talk about how to utilize the technology, how to access technology, which is good, which
Right.
is necessary. But it doesn't mean that that you don't take care of the risk. So I mean, you go to any situation. You are a high school kid and you go to a school, and of course you must see how to take benefit of your school education, and you must see that you benefit best from your teaching and laboratories and everything. But it doesn't mean that you ignore the risk. If the school building is likely to collapse, it doesn't mean that you just pretend like it's not going to collapse, and you only look at school as a place which gives the education. I mean,
Right.
if there is a risk there, you must, if existential risk particularly, then you must address it. But somehow these countries, they are so focused on looking at governance only as management of opportunities, that they don't want to even acknowledge that there are extreme risk.
Right.
And when there is no contest, I mean, you harness the opportunities, we must harness the opportunities, but we must also mitigate the risk. But they are somehow thinking that if you start looking at the risk, it will distract the attention. And so what they say is that you don't talk about risk, so you deny the risk. You just deny that there is a movement towards artificial general intelligence. You just deny that nuclear weapon governance is not safe. You just deny that hypersonic missiles can be risky. You just deny all of that.
Right.
So that's the tendency.
Last couple of things, Sandeep. One is I'm very interested in your take on the question of standards for the use of AI in nuclear weapons. Now, as we discussed, right now the five big guys will decide those standards. First of all, is it fair that they will decide the standards on the use of AI in nuclear weapons? And the second is, what if that happens? How is the world going to respond to that?
But I was co-chairing a process of dialogue among experts from the P5 countries, these big five countries, for 3 years. We met in Geneva discreetly from the time Ukraine war started, March 22, until December 24, when Donald Trump was getting ready to move into the White House. So 3 years we had several meetings in person mostly. Also, we consulted with ambassadors of these five countries, and now we had several discussions. And at the end of this process, we have prepared a technical paper which gives the broad contours of an agreement that the five countries can enter into. So it's not totally left to them to devise the standards. I mean, they will have to devise the standard, but this process, which was a kind of a consensual process, has created or provided parameters by which they should develop these standards.
I
So,
see.
so the process didn't define the standards. Standards will have to be defined by the technical people, but it gives the parameters.
Right.
And so this is quite a good comprehensive technical document, which can be a starting point for negotiations between these five countries for a mandatory fact.
Okay. And
And
to
it's already there. It's available.
I see. To conclude, Sandeep, you've also, so far we have talked about human in the loop principle, but you have also flagged the real danger of agentic malware. Uh,
Right.
I mean, I'm going to quote you a little bit here. You write that the risk will increase in the next 2 to 3 years as new agentic malware emerges, capable of worming its way past threat detection systems. Now, that's very serious. Now, the agentic malware is not controlled by states in many ways. It is,
No,
but it is also not. I mean, it's both
no.
ways. How are we going to approach that problem?
Well, first of all, I didn't uh, uh, talk so much in praise of the human in the loop principle. I mean, it's an essential principle,
I mean, we
but
are
I
also
think
malware in many
it's
ways.
it's
So,
yeah, yeah. But that human in the loop is, a non-existing. It's just a slogan. That's my
right,
point. That is a slogan. It's not something. It's not an operating tool. It's a slogan. But the agentic malware, it is on its way, and I'm sure it must be worrying the military planners, because this malware will go anywhere. It will go through the it can self-replicate,
right.
and it can evade cyber defenses, and it can go. And I don't think there are any solutions which are being discussed in the public domain. I hope that at least the defense ministries and military planners and the technical people are finding technical response. But see, what happens is like a disease. You find a solution, you find a vaccination, and the disease gets stronger and it bounces back. And that's what's happening with AI. So, what I would say in conclusion is that there is agentic malware. There is a risk of agents communicating with each other. This what you read was agentic malware going on its own and self-replicating and entering the cyber defenses or bypassing the cyber defenses. There is also the other dimension of agentic malware where the agents start talking to each other and communicate with each other without human supervision. That
Exactly.
could
And,
happen.
I'm glad you
Yeah,
mentioned that, because if the malware itself has a strong AI dimension,
right.
then it's a sovereign territory. Malware can pretty much
Yeah,
do
yeah,
what it wants.
exactly. So they can talk with each other, they can do what they like. So so what we really at least start discussing, and in fact start moving towards a global AI governance regime
Right.
which addresses this extreme risk from malfunctioning and malintention both. It's not always malfunctioning. There are
Yeah.
malintention, and also at the same time that regime should try to minimize the risk, prevent the risk in nuclear weapons, and generally in in the civil life also, and also which creates opportunities which are the aspirations of the developing countries.
Right.
Otherwise the developing countries will not sign to a global pact, because they say they don't even want to discuss global risk. So
Right.
there are scientific solutions, there are parameters which can be developed, but primarily we need a political compact which recognizes the need to have a balanced global AI governance mechanism to to prevent the runaway uh, race towards uncontrollable AGI or whatever you might call it,
Right.
uh, to prevent the misuse of uh, intelligent, more intelligent than the present AI systems, and at the same time to enable the less privileged countries or the emerging economies to harness AI for the global good. So that's the kind of a comprehensive regime that we must work towards.